doing with the extra images?
I haven't started.
Okay.
So I think what I want to do is go back to the original story and just pick out some more emotions and stuff like that. And then I think I need to write the quotes that come with it and either see what images I've got, because I've shot a lot recently, or go and then photograph more images. But I've come up with a number of 52. I don't know why. 52 weeks in the year. I don't know if it's nice, one a week kind of thing, or if that's too many. I don't know.
I don't think it's too many. I don't think so at all. Bigger books, more images, more money to get published, more money to charge though, so it can offset itself. Much harder to sell a super thin book as a coffee table book for $100 than it is to sell a nice, thick, beautiful art-bound book. So, yeah. So they have their trade-off. But the problem with doing them as books when they're heavy photo books is that the photos are a lot more expensive to print because you have the colored inks. So, so that's the trade-off.
Because, I keep I think, I'm not sure if I've got it all fixed in my mind at the moment, because I keep flipping through different things and changing my mind, and I don't know, things come, like we spoke before about having all the individual little books. Mm-hmm. I really like that idea. So then I'm thinking, well, do I have a big book, or do I separate them into a collection of 5 books or something?
Well, when you think about people having them on the shelves, what do they look like? Do you like the idea of having like a box collection with like 6 or 7, like think like Chronicles of Narnia or Lord of the Rings, or and then there's Harry Potter, which as a series is still individual books, but I haven't seen a collection of those ones. But I remember when I was little, I had like all of the Chronicles of Narnia, and there was like a big box that they all fit in and sat on my shelves all together. So it just kind of depends. If you're going to keep doing it every year, then it might not be necessarily a box set as much as a encyclopedia sort of collection anthology. Yeah. Which I could totally see this being.
Yeah, I mean, I like the option of having the option that someone can buy one, or they can buy a set of 6.
Okay. I like that too.
Yeah. Of course, then I've got to come up with probably a lot more than 52 images, because I think I told you as well, I sound like I'm really confused, but I'm just mulling different things over in my mind. I'm starting a bookbinding course the week after next.
I love that. I'm super excited to hear how that goes.
Well, the woman is a Japanese woman, I think, does it, and she creates these beautiful books. And when I was looking more at her work and some of the other like designer bookbinders they have here, the book is actually a piece of art as well. And but then that will take it away from mass producing, I guess. But I really love the idea of it being because it's a personal thing for me.
I don't think it has to take it away from mass producing, because we've been talking about the same thing with the Reliquarium, but I would say that what you have then is probably a more affordable option, and then a collector's edition.
Okay.
So, are you familiar with Kirsty Mitchell?
Yes.
Okay, so when she did her Wonderland book, and she did the opening for that, she had a couple of different ones. So there was like the base level one that was like, I think it was like $130, $140. And that was the book, is the collection, and it was hardcover. It's a huge book. I have a copy of it upstairs. Mm-hmm. But then she had steps up from that. So like the next one was a limited edition one that actually had a pocket and had 2, I think they were 11 by 14 prints of her work included with it. And then the step up from that had the book and I think 4 prints, and then a bronze recast of the key that was in one of the images. Okay. And that one was like something like $5,000. And she sold 10 copies of it, and it sold out in the first week of her launching it. So there's all these different ways that you can play around it, because you're not doing a book in the sense like we were talking, like Chronicles of Narnia or Lord of the Rings. They're collections of books, but they're for reading. This is something that has the reading element in it, but also is more geared towards the art. So you can sell like an artist too and do them as collections as well. So if you wanted to do a bookbinding course where you have every step of this process in your hands and you're creating it, then maybe what you do is you do 10 custom bound books that were bound by the author and artist that are part of a limited edition series that are, 5 times the price for the amount of time and energy that you're going to put in. But you could still do a collection or a print run of 500 or 1,000 of them at a still having a beautifully bound book, but maybe not to the same degree of craftsmanship.
Yeah, I like that idea, actually. I really like that idea. And I think for me, I'd like to bind the first, because obviously I'm only just starting out, so I don't think it's going to be the most amazing first thing that I make, but I would like to use that to go to publishers or to go to people as a dummy piece, not for them to copy that, but just to actually show everything in print.
Okay.
I sort of think I've moved away from self-publishing via an online place, because I think that's what anyone can do.
Yes, I will agree. As far as I think that you're setting yourself up for failure when you talk about the print on demand. In the sense, and not, maybe failure isn't the right word. I think it depends on your intentions. If it is your dream to be able to hold a book in your hands and you're okay with the fact that your mom and your 2 biggest fans are going to buy a copy, then printing on demand might be worth it, but you can't make any money at it because the cost of printing on demand jacks the book prices up so high that it's impossible to make a profit off of it.
Yeah.
At which point you might as well look for a traditional publisher, in which case you would at least have the publishers into all of the book houses and all of the avenues of selling, even though you're making very little returns. So with mine, I did both. So I have 1,000 copies that were hardbound and printed, and I took care of it and did self-publishing through a traditional printing house. And then I went through a publisher. So the publisher did a paperback version. It's like, I think it's supposed to retail for like $27.95 or something, like pretty standard for like one of your education books. And I think out of that $27.95, assuming it sells for full price and isn't on sale or anything, I think I get like $3 of every sale.
Okay.
So it's like, it's very minimal when you think about it. But the upside of that is that the publishers, when they do it, they handle all of the upfront printing costs, which can be tens of thousands of dollars, if not more. They handle all of the binding, all of the shipping, all of the warehousing of the books. They have ins with all of the bookstores around the countries and around the world. And so they have the ability to actually get it on the shelves a lot easier than an author or an artist does by themselves. And they have what's called a buyback. So the way that it works in the publishing world is that whatever you're going to retail your book for, if you want to get it in stores so that people can go and pull it off the shelf, the stores are used to and expect to buy it for 60% off of whatever you have the price at. So if you have your book set at $100, they're expecting to buy it for $40.
Okay.
So that they can mark it up and take a profit. And usually you have like that like recommended buying price, like you'll see it on the bottom of the barcodes of the books that says like $16.95 kind of thing. So usually what's happened is, assuming it's a $20 book, they've bought it for like less than half. So they've bought it for like $8 and then they price it back up at the $20 and they make a $12 profit off of it. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So, they expect to do that, whether they're buying through a publisher or buying through you. The problem is that printing, along with photography and every other technology, has just exploded in the last 10 years with how easy it is to do. So now there's no quality controls. Mm-hmm. So they know that if they get contacted by a publisher, that the publisher has already gone through, usually authors specifically, since most books are written books, authors have to find an agent. The agent won't pick up the book unless they think they can sell it, because the agent makes 15 to 20% off of your sales. So first the agent goes through and goes, I'm not going to make any money off this one, this one, this one. Ooh, this one I think can sell. Then the agent picks you up. Then the agent takes your book And their job is to go and find the publishers and go, look, you really want to publish this book. And then the publishers go through and they go, we didn't like the last 3 books from that agent. This agent, we have a really good return on those, so we'll work with them. They have Sandra's new book, so we'll take their book. Now it's gone to the publisher. Then the publisher contacts the book house and says, hey, we have this new book. It's in print. It's ready to go. We want it on your shelves. Would you like to buy it? And the book house now knows that it has gone through the scrutiny of the publisher, the agent, and the author in order to get to their shelves. So they feel a lot safer than somebody going, I'm a writer, put my book on your shelves. And meanwhile, the book house is going, you're delusional. That's really cute. We're glad your mom thinks so. So it's the same kind of thing. So it's really, really difficult to get your book into the actual stores when you're representing yourself, which is why going through a traditional publisher is good. But the publisher, by the time the publisher takes their cut and then the agent takes their cut and then it gets back to you, out of that $20 that the book is selling for, you're getting like $1 to $2 of that. But once you're done writing the book, you hand it over and you don't have to do anything. Every 6 months you get a royalty check.
Yeah.
The average book now sells less than 500 copies. So if you're getting $2 a copy, then maybe you make $500 to $1,000 off of that book for all the work that you put in as well. So it's, those are some of the things to be considering. It's a lot of information. It was really educational for me. I'm glad I did both because now I understand the pros and cons of doing both.
Yeah.
Because then you start to look at it and you're like, well, I don't want to give away $18 in my book sale. I want all 20 of it. I'll just print it myself. But then you have to work on being able to get it printed, get it bound, get it stored, shipping them out. There's so many other things that you have to do that you start putting your time in, that you realize that you're actually making less money, even though you're keeping all of the money because of the amount of time you're putting in. You could have written 10 more books and made up the difference in that time. So it just depends on which part of the process you like.
It sort of sounds to me like I would prefer to go down the publishing house route for the basic edition or whatever, that. I don't mind that it doesn't make me, I don't take all the money. I don't mind that they have all their cuts up because they will do all the work, like you say. But then the limited editions, I would want to do myself probably.
Well,
get on with the bookbinding.
Right. So when it came down to that, I had to actually have my contract renegotiated with the publisher because they buy the rights to the book. So they don't want to compete with you for sales.
Okay.
So if you wanted to do that, then you would have to be really upfront with them. If somebody bid off and said, hey, we think this is really good, we'd be interested in publishing, you would have to say, look, I'm self-binding several of these, and you have to price them out of the same competition. So my paperback is like somewhere between like $20 and $30 through the publisher. My hardcover version sells for $125 to at least $75 because most people are not going to buy it for $125 if they want the $25 version. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you're not in the same competition area, are you?
Exactly. Because what they don't want is they don't want you to create a version and sell it for $30 and them to sell it for $30 because then they're competing with you for it.
Yeah.
And it lessens theirs. So when I did mine, I had to put it in, look, I'm doing 500 to 1,000 copies. They're going to be hardcover. I will not sell them for less than $50 was the agreed upon price between us. So if you go online, it's never below $50 unless it's for sale for charity. If I give them to other companies to use to give them a way to raise money, that's different, but I can't profit less than $50.
Okay, that makes sense.
That way they feel like that's a big enough gap that people that just want the information will buy the paperback one because it's essentially the same thing.
Sure.
Yeah. So, so definitely now that you look at it, when you talk about, self-publishing in the sense of print on demand, that's exactly what happened. There were too many people that were like, oh, I want to be an author now, or I want to have a book and you should buy it. And the book houses were like, you're out of your mind. So Amazon saw the potential for a market that was essentially stroking egos, because that's what it is. So now they have things like Create Space and there's Blurb and stuff like that, which is really just for people to go, oh, I have a, and they say published, but it's not, because it doesn't have an ISBN number and it's not listed in the Libraries of Congress and, you know, international and anything else. But it allows people to create a book and have a physical book in their hands that want it. And for that, they pay a premium price. However, to fire up the presses and put it in line and bind the book for a single book is really, really cost inefficient for the publishing houses, which is why it costs you $100 to print one book, when it costs me about $12 to run 1,000 of them, $12 per book. So it's like anything else. Anytime you order in bulk, you know, the price goes down the more you order, kind of thing. So no, I think that what you have here is a good enough product that we're not stroking egos to go, oh, look, it's my book on the shelf. I think that it has publishing potential. We just have to find the right publisher and printer, or you can print on your own and raise the capital yourself. And then we can you can still find warehouses and marketing. So instead of having them all shipped to your house like I did, because my husband considered divorce after that, because just 3,000 pounds on crates of books got delivered and left in the driveway. Like, it wasn't good. If you wanted to do that, there's other companies that just handle the warehousing and the shipping. So every time an order comes in, it goes right to them. They bind the book and they ship it out. The only reason I don't do that is because it's a limited edition. They come with a certificate of authenticity. So every book is made out to the person that buys it on the certificate. If you're not doing that, then you don't have to worry about it. Or if you were smarter than me and you did want to do that, you would have just had the certificates made and signed them out and just not had a name thing. It would just be signed and numbered by the artist. So those are the options. But we can look at those. I think that's all really good stuff to start looking at in your Sphere 3 while you're continuing to put the images together. I do think that you have enough of the book now that, like, you can at least start doing some of the groundwork for the printing and publishing and research and stuff while you continue to put the book together. That way you have all the info. So when you go, okay, it's done, it's ready, you're immediately ready to move into that process.
What's the rough time? I mean, I know it must differ for every book, but what's the kind of rough timeline between when you approach an agent to when it ends up in store?
With the agent, it's different. I worked directly with the publisher, so I didn't have to go through an agent. So I can't really say on that, but whether you're working by yourself or you're working with an agent, it's the same thing. You or they have to get a publisher to bite off and say, yes, we want to publish it. So assuming that you have a good book, and assuming for the sake of argument that the first publisher you take it to goes, absolutely, we want to publish it, we're adding it to our queue, you should expect for 12 to 18 months before that book is on the shelf in stores.
Wow.
It's a long lead out time, and patience is not a virtue I possess. I had no idea it took that long.
God, I had no idea it took that long. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Gosh, because by then my photography might have completely changed. Well, not completely changed, but
you think about it in terms of, like, let's look at blogs. Most blogs, like there's a wedding blog really popular in the US called Style Me Pretty. She has all of her posts, because she posts every day. Her and the publishers and bloggers that work with her, they have their posts already scheduled out 6 months. So if I submitted a wedding to them and they said, yes, we want to use it, I know that it's not going up on that site for at least 3 to 6 months. And then they take them and they categorize them based on, like, they'll show, fall weddings in the fall. But, you think about it from a perspective, usually photographers take at least 1 to 2 months to, like, get all the images back and albums and stuff. So if I shoot a wedding in September, chances are I'm not submitting it anywhere until winter. It's probably not going to come up until the next fall, when it's relevant and everybody's looking at fall weddings.
Yeah,
you
sure.
know, so it depends on the publishing company too, because a lot of them have different genres and things that they're publishing. So in an effort to maximize their potential sales, they won't put out competing books either. So it might be that they put out one photography coffee table book every 3 to 6 months out of the 12 titles that they do. So maybe one is just photography in terms of like architecture and landscape kind of work and that kind of thing. And another one is like really intimate portraits. If somebody is looking to buy a portrait book, they might not necessarily be looking to buy a book on landscapes and architecture. It might not appeal to them. So those two wouldn't necessarily compete for the same person. But if I have two products that are both these beautiful architecture, landscape kind of things, and they're very similar work with distinct styles, I don't want to put your book up against somebody else's book that has the same kind of content and is just as beautiful, because they might only buy one. Where if I space them out 3 to 6 months, then they might appeal to more people. So you pretty much give up all of the creative licensing, all of the control, which I have a hard time relinquishing.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so that's why when it came down to it, like I looked at it, if I could do it again, I wouldn't have done the limited edition book with the photography book because it would have worked better for me to do that paper book. But I'll have a really hard time giving up the Reliquarian without being able to retain my rights as author and artist to publish how I see fit in different ones. So it's really just a matter of what your priorities are and what it is that you want to hold to. Because like the paperback, if you look at my book on Amazon or Barnes and Noble, wherever you buy books, they changed the title, they changed the layout, they changed it to paperback, they changed mine, the way I designed it is an 11 by 13 hardcover. Theirs is like a 7.5 by 5 paperback. They took out all of the pictures, they changed around all of the layouts, they took entire chapters out that they didn't think fit. Like once they have it and you sign over rights, you sign over rights. They can do pretty much whatever they want to the book. And they did that for reasons that suited them and their expertise, because their job is to know how to get books to sell. So it was simple things like artistic seductions won't come up in search results when people are looking for boudoir books. Even if I index it and say it's a photography book, it's an instructional book, it's boudoir, and I hashtag those things in the search results, it'll come up below anything that has boudoir in the actual title because of the way most search engines index. Right. So elegant boudoir came up much higher whenever people were searching for it than artistic seductions did, even though that was the original title. So they're looking at things like that. And I'm looking at, how I want it to sound and how I want it to feel and what I want the colors of the pages to be. And they're looking at it and going, you don't need brown or black backgrounds on the pages. White is better and it saves us $8 a copy, So it's the trade-off. Like I had to have control of everything from start to finish for my copies because the book was its own work of art, not just the images. That being said, it's an instructional book. I could have let it go for that one, saved myself a lot of time and energy and money, and I wouldn't have stacks of books, lining the walls of different areas of my house while they're selling. So it's just a trade-off. I have made all of my money back on both at this point.
Okay.
So
interesting.
Yeah. So it's just a matter, like right now it was, I think we'll say 14,000's probably everything for all of the printing, all of the binding, all of the shipping, everything to get it here, all of the boxes that I had to buy to then ship the books out. I'd say 14 to 15,000 would be safe. And I have sold that much and then some. So I'm about 5,000 over that now. So now every book that I sell at $125 is pure profit, 100%. So I get to keep all of that, which is nice. And I think the cost for me came out to like $13.50 a book, something like that. It was under 14. It was 13 something per book with 1,000 copies, but it was going to be something like $28 a copy for 500, and it was going to be like $45 a copy if I got 250, and it was like $120 a copy if I did print on demand. So you can, like, the more you do, the more it goes down. Yours would be a lot less because you have white pages on your whole book.
Yeah.
And I had all color.
Ah, okay. Okay. I mean, I have to say, I am not good at giving up control.
Yeah.
When you're saying,
that's why you and I get along.
But when you say about, I mean, I don't even let people print my images. You know, I'm having a bit of a discussion with someone that wants to license an image for printing, and I want to print it myself.
Mm-hmm.
I want that control over it. I don't, you know, and I'm really picky as well. Like, you know, I've reframed images that I've framed 15 times because there's been the tiniest speck of dust that's just like traveled all around, where I don't even think other people would, not everyone, but I think a lot of people wouldn't notice it.
No, they probably wouldn't.
But for me, I do. You know, wouldn't notice it, thereby it's not perfect enough. So now you've said that, I'm kind of thinking, no, I don't want to hand it over to someone else, which, you know, then obviously causes a problem, because it's like, if I want to keep all the control myself, then I'm going to have to put up all the money myself, aren't I?
Again, not necessarily. My book paid for itself before it went to the printer because I did the Kickstarter. So I had about 10,000 that I had set aside for it to be able to do. And then I did the Kickstarter, and I think we hit like 7,500 was what I knew I needed. So I set that as the Kickstarter limit. Like, that's what we were raising to, and anything after that was gravy. And I think we hit 7,500 in the first week and a half. Like, it was like the first 10 days we had hit that. So all that money came in and covered the book before I even sent it to the printer.
But I think that's probably because it's you and it's your work, isn't it? And you have a big following.
I do now. I think my fan page on Facebook was at like 4,000 when I did that.
I think mine's at about 200.
Yeah, but what's your other social media at, and who do you have? And a lot of the people that came to mine actually came through Kickstarter. Like, they're like chronic supporters that just go in and look for nifty things to support. So I had a bunch of people that supported it from the actual thing, but it's a numbers game too. Like, you have to, this is where the research came in, and I knew that I could sell the books for as low as $20 a piece in order to break even after I shipped them. So it was a matter of figuring out exactly how many I had to sell and what I wanted the price tag at. But if you have a beautiful collection of work, and we work, and part of your Sphere 3 will be building your following, because it is a numbers game.
Yeah.
Like, Trey had the Peak design bag, and he did the whole tour across America thing, and everybody was like talking about it because he raised over $1 million in 3 weeks for it. It was like 1.7, I think, when all was said and done. If you look just at his Google following, nothing else, he has millions of followers. So if you look at where he was with his following and where I was with my following, I made significantly less money. There would be no contest. Trey made almost 2 million. I made almost 10,000. You know, Trey was obviously more successful. But if you're looking at the actual math of it and the percentage, both of us were about the same. It's about 1 to 2%. So if you have like 300 followers, chances are that you'll probably sell at least 3 books. You know, it's like, it's a percentage thing. And the more the numbers go up, usually the smaller the percentage of people that actually buy, because you have more and more people that follow you, and like they click like, or they click follow or +1 or whatever, and then they never come back to your page because they just happen to be on it that day. As opposed to like your diehards that are commenting on everything that you post and are just really enamored with your work and moved by you. Those are the people you want. That's why I'm never advocating for people to just have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. Like, I ended up blocking certain countries from being able to see my page because it's all boudoir. And I started seeing on my insights that my biggest following was men 25 to 35 in Bangladesh. You know, who are definitely never going to purchase a session and are not photographers or educators. We can guess why they're on the page, you know, which is fine. But chances are that all of my posts then are going out to them, and that's great. They're liking it, but it's not yielding me anything. So numbers don't mean anything if you don't understand what the numbers actually count for. So even still though, I would say depending on how many you wanted to do and depending on what it is that you wanted to do specifically, I don't think that you would have a problem raising the money to be able to start building it. The other way to look at it too is that a lot of authors now are self-publishing the first one, and then publishers are paying attention, and when they're hitting a certain number of sales and they're seeing, the publishers are seeing like the top books selling and stuff, if you're selling hundreds or thousands of copies, then the publishers go, oh, she's marketable, because if she can sell that many on her own without all the benefits we have, then we could sell tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of copies. So it's almost a chess game that you're playing.
I think one of the issues that has come up for me, and maybe that's why I haven't done any more layouts yet, is I don't know if I'm 100% confident about it as a book. And
okay.
I don't know why that has waned, and I don't know why that is, because, you know, I've loved the Sphere 2 that we've done. The process has been amazing. You know, I never thought I'd write a story, and I loved that. And, you know, this took me in a different way than before I even had the initial chat with you on Sphere 2, I thought I was going. But I've totally loved it all. It's been amazing. But I don't know if I have like you're saying, oh, you know, if you're going to sell hundreds or thousands, I'm thinking, I don't know if anyone will buy it. So
well, that's a terrible thing to think.
No, I know, exactly. And you know, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, I've got all these architecture images and all the stuff from my Hidden Beauty series. You know, I'm really passionate about that. I want to do that book. So then I've come, I don't know how I've sort of, I don't know, kind of lost myself a little bit. And I think.
I don't think that that's a problem. It's entirely possible. Now that I look at it, part of the reason that I lament doing the hardcover is that I realize that it was the wrong book to do it with. Like it wasn't bad to do it, but it was the wrong book to do it with. But at the same time, I look at it and I go, well, I put it up to the people and enough of the people bought it to finance it. So it wasn't the wrong book to do it with because they wanted it.
Yeah.
So there does come a time where, you know, I think you have to be true to your art and your vision and your message, but at the same time, like you're creating it to share with people. So you kind of let the people decide, you know, but you have to have a tough skin too. Like, is it going to be okay for you to go put it out there and go, look, if you want it, here it is. If you know, if it reaches, you know, our goal, then I'll send it to the printer, and it doesn't, are you going to take that as disheartening and get disgruntled by that and be like, oh, I'm a failure, it didn't make as much money, so I can't sell anything? Or are you going to take it as a learning process and move forward and go, okay, I was right, that wasn't the right book, let's look at this series of images to do now.
Learning process, definitely. Yeah, and absolutely. I'm not going to be just, you know, because I mean, I don't know, and this is going to sound terrible, because I think if I do put it up on something like Kickstarter, I don't think it will. So, and then I don't know why. I'm not normally a very negative person kind of thing, so I don't really know where that's come from. And maybe when I get back to doing more layouts and adding more images, you know, maybe I've just had too much time away from it and I need to get back into it, and that will kind of.
Well, I don't think it will is a very sound stop statement. Like, I don't think it will sell. I don't think it will make money. I don't think it will work. You've pretty much set it up for failure. But if you want to follow that up with me with the why, I don't think it'll work, because why? Then you're opening up a conversation to work around those. So do you know why you don't think that it is? Because otherwise I'm just going to say that you're being dumb and knock it off.
Why don't I think it is? Maybe because I think it's not as interesting as I thought it was when I first started. So, or maybe it's because, oh gosh, you know, maybe it's because it hasn't really found its place, you know, like, because the quotes, they're not really spiritual, but they are kind of, you know, for people to sit there and think. So maybe it's like I haven't worked out who the book is actually for. Because it's got photographs in it, but it's not purely just photographic book. It is, you know, it kind of taps into my more, I suppose, spiritual side, or my more philosophical side, maybe. Whereas if it was just a book of photographs, I know, you know, the clientele would be people that would want to look at, you know, certain style of photograph.
Okay.
Table book. So maybe I haven't just quite worked out where its place is.
Do you have a piece of paper nearby? Okay. Ready? So
Yeah.
you said, I don't think it'll work because I don't know that it's interesting enough. It hasn't found its place yet. And I'm not sure that I understand who it's for. So I'm going to turn those around to questions for you to be paying attention to for the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
Maybe this is your first level for Sphere 3. Is it interesting enough? And then underneath that, what would make it interesting enough? And what other books that are similar do I find interesting enough, and why? Has it found its place? Where is its place? With who does it belong? And your third one of not knowing who is it for is just, that's the question. Who is it for? And how does it serve them? Because really, like, you know, we talk about other professions, and we can talk about, say an architect, and your job is to create a safe shelter that people want to be in, you know? So it's not just about the functionality, but it's also about the artistry of creating that place, and the fact that you want to be in it, not just that you can be in it, you know? And we talk about people that cook. Your job is to nourish the body so that it continues to function. But, you know, we can also talk about comfort food. With artists, you know, if you were a doctor, you would pay attention to your craft, and you would study, and you would beat on it, because you would know that your ability to perform well is the difference between someone's life and death, and how they feel and their well-being. And I think that art is very, very similar in the fact that it does that on spiritual and emotional and mental realms. People turn to artistry to understand themselves better. So who is this for? It's probably for people like you, because you created it. And I think that most artists create, you know, in order to say something that they can't find the way to say, and to have other people react to that, so that they know that they're not alone in the feeling that they created it for in the first place. So that's who it's for. But you have to go and define that further. Like, if it's spiritual and it's philosophical, then it has to be people that share those same values spiritually and philosophically. People that are going to connect with those images and those words. Who are they, and why do they need what it is that you're doing? Why do you need it? And anytime I'm trying to answer something for my clients, I turn it around from them to me. So I'm not going, how does this serve them? I'm going, how would it serve me? When would I need this? How would I need this? What would this benefit me? You know, and if I can't find the answer to that, then maybe I'm focusing on the wrong thing, and I need to look at it from a different angle, or I need to look at a different product or service or subject matter, you know? So I think that it's a really good thing that you're looking at it and maybe feeling a little displaced by it, and going, is it good enough to go sell? Because that's really just you tapping into the fact that we're getting to the part where you need to start looking at the questions, not feeling like you don't have the answers. We just haven't looked at what the questions are. So having them allows you to really sort of tap into them. And I want you to know that, like, I'm totally okay if Sphere 2 was a test run for you. Like, if you're looking at it and you come back at it and you go, this isn't serving, it isn't serving me, and it isn't serving them, and you know, now this has led me to what I really want to focus on, which is a book about this. I'm okay with that. Most writers, most artists have practice runs before they hit their masterpiece. So if you can figure it out, there's no courage in pursuing a path that you know is going in the wrong direction. Like, That's just silly. That's like driving south when you're trying to get to a northern state. Like, it's okay to turn around and go, okay, now I know where I'm at. I'm going to turn around and go back this way. Because the further you drive down that way, the more time you have to make up.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
But don't abandon it out of fear.
I definitely wouldn't abandon it anyway, because I do think, and it has had good responses. I've shown it to a few, I mean, they're my friends, but I have shown it to a few people and it has had very good response.
Okay.
In my mind, I kind of feel that I've got two books in my head, and that is this one, which I need to work out where, because for me now it's looking like it's not a photographic book. Whereas obviously as a photographer, I thought I was going to, in my mind, I thought, I'm going to do a photography book. But I think it's not so much. I think it's a bit, is that all right? You all right?
Yeah, this is my 8-year-old who hasn't learned how to close doors without slamming them.
So there seems to be like that one. And then I have this other book in my mind that's like a pure photography book, and that's come from a couple of people saying, oh my God, when are you going to do a book? I'd really love to see a book on that. I don't know if I can do two at the same time.
Why not?
Okay, there you go. There's my answer. I mean, I feel that's what I would like to do, is spend my next sphere actually doing two different books.
Okay, I'm totally okay with that.
I mean, I know that's a lot of extra work, but I mean, I quit my job, so I have time.
Okay, well, no, that's good. I think that I think with people that are focused in your kind of genres, the effort is always how to monetize that as work. Because with photographers that are portrait and event photographers, your subject is your client. So they're right there all the time. But the downside is that nobody wants a picture of my family hanging on their walls. They want their family. So you're constantly working in order to make money. With yours, if we put these books together and you sell 1,000 copies of them, after the first copy, it doesn't cost you any more time or energy or effort for the second, the third, the fourth. It continues to make you money. So, I look at it too all the time and go, those royalty checks come in for a couple of grand and they're only a couple of grand. Like I'm not ready to retire off of it yet, but I look at it and I go, if I make $2,000 every 6 months that comes in from a book, and then I had another 10 books, I'd be making 20 grand every 6 months, and then if I did another 10 after that, so it could start to add up. And the nice thing is that it continues to make you money. I'm all about that. That's essentially a creative plan for retirement. Because what do? We put money in savings accounts and in IRAs and retirement funds and stuff like that. And we hope that the money collects interest in order to pay us back in full, and that the money works for us. Well, creating a book or creating prints or things that you can sell to multiple people is essentially doing the same thing in a more artistic realm. You're doing the work once and you're getting paid continuously for it. That's a really, really good idea. Yeah. Because then once the book is out, then you move on to the next book or the book after that. My only concern with that would be you and I are very similar, and you might be a habitual project starter where you might be losing luster now that we're going into the home stretch of seeing at home. So you're like, oh, I have this great idea. I want to start another one. I'm terrible about that. I always have 20 projects going on. So as long as we're working on completing one of them, because if we see this one through and we finish this now, even if for the sake of argument, let's say it's primarily a big learning process. Yeah. I'd rather see you put out one book first, especially one that maybe isn't your baby. Maybe it's just, your first attempt, and have you learn and slip up and fall and make all the mistakes that you're going to make on that one, so that you go into the one that you're really focused on with all of that knowledge coming in. So it's a much smoother creation process for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect sense. Perfect sense. I mean, I am a person that if I start something, I finish it. So that is,
okay, good.
If we go with doing both books, they will both be finished. They're also, I think, quite different. So I think we're learning two different processes.
Tell me a little bit about the second book that you have in mind. What is it that you want to do?
So that would be a pure coffee table photography book.
Okay.
It comes out of my Hidden Beauty project, which is all the kind of brutalist architecture that I've got like about 20 images on my website as part of that project. But I have just been to Berlin and I've got like 1,500 images that I'm processing at the moment. So and I'm actually going back to Berlin as well to go and take some more. And they are received quite well, actually. They're all a a similar style. They're all kind of like front on, fairly ugly buildings that I've tried to, that have their own kind of personalities. And to me, I find them really beautiful. That's why they're called Hidden Beauty. I think it would be, what are you rocking backwards and forwards for?
Because I'm thinking, but continue, I'm listening.
I feel like you're going to get a ruler out and slap me on the wrist for not coming up with a great idea.
No, I like it. Keep going.
So it's more, again, though, it does kind of relate to the fact that, it is about superficial beauty, I think. So it does sort of relate to our society as well, and how important everything has to be beautiful. And, like magazines use models that, that are then kind of like touched up or airbrushed and stuff like that. So it all has to be kind of perfection. And to me, these buildings, from like the brutalist architecture, they are, for most people, really quite ugly. But to me, they kind of stand there and think, you know what, hey, this is me. I'm like this. Come and just take a little bit of a deeper look. Don't just brush me off because you think I look like that. I feel like I sound like I'm a bit of a mad woman. But
no, I think you're hitting on some very deep points that a lot of people can connect to.
And it is about looking deeper. It is about kind of saying, you know what, hang on a second, like don't ignore me. Just take a little bit of a moment to look a little bit deeper. And then you'll see all the fabulous things about me. Say my window's wonky, or so it is, they all have kind of quite human elements to them, even though that's not obvious when you look at them. But for me, I'm just like totally obsessed with them now. I mean, I was out again yesterday, and I was out with a fellow photographer, and she didn't get why I loved them so much. But I don't know, maybe it's kind of the underdog. Maybe it's saying, like, you don't have to be this beautiful model to get on in life. There are more things than superficial.
Okay, so what if the first book that we've been working on in Sphere 2 is just a book? What if the second one that you're working on, if that's a collection, because that would be a very easy one to break down into anthologies, where it's Hidden Beauty Berlin and Hidden Beauty New York and Hidden Beauty. Yeah, that one, I think. So see, this is exactly the process that I love about it, because we had all these ideas that we were playing with for this one, and we're trying to find it out. So now that I'm listening to you with it, I think the first book is definitely book worthy in itself. But as a book, I think it's a standalone. This one I could totally see, especially if you're talking about, 15,000 images to go through from a single city, that you could put smaller anthologies together, which are less expensive to print and do. You'd be able to keep your own, keep all the control over, because it'd be a much smaller investment, which means it'd be a much easier sell to other people if you don't have as large of a following. But also you could start marketing this on social media, that it's a collection that's coming together, by releasing images and getting the conversation started, because there's a lot of emotional rooting that'll take place with that as the message. There's a lot of people that are really tired of looking at size 0 airbrushed skin on the cover of magazines, and that transcends country borders too. And there's a lot of people that see beauty in derelict and forgotten things, that will love that idea as well. So there's a bunch of different places that you can tap into different people that aren't necessarily all in the same genre. So I love that idea.
Yeah, I think when you just said, because in my mind, I was already thinking, I've got Hidden Beauty London, Hidden Beauty Berlin, there's Hidden Beauty, they're probably in Poland, I want to do one as well, Russia. So, and I thought they should all be separate books. So as soon as you said, well, I've got much more excited about that than the book that we've been working on. Although I do want to still finish that book that we've been working on. And I think you're right, a single book. Right? I know more about having, another book, 5 or 6, but there are so many emotions. I think I would struggle to do more books on that.
No, I like the idea of it being a completed one, but I think what I would do is I would probably, what would you say your first 3 Hidden Beauty places would be? Berlin, London?
London, Berlin, and then I'd probably do Poland.
Poland? Okay.
But then, I mean, I haven't been to Poland. I have to have a look, because obviously London, Berlin, cities. Could I then do Poland as a country, or do I need to focus on a city?
I would think that for the sake of continuity that you would probably want a city, but I'd totally be okay with you going to shoot in Poland and looking at multiple cities. Or maybe it's the kind of thing that, you know, maybe the city is the heart of the country. So maybe London is, you know, like the heart of England kind of thing. And you could have like outskirts around it if there's other buildings. But if you can look at a country and go, I would really like to photograph this city as its own and this city as its own. I don't think that you could have multiple cities and then just do a country.
Oh, sure. Okay. So, I mean, I'm sure, you know, in Warsaw alone, there'd be enough to do a book as well.
Yeah.
And then there are German towns as well that I want to go to. So, I mean, I do think this probably has more longevity in terms of I could keep on shooting and then have another book and keep.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I think you could either do it as a country like Hidden Beauty, you know, Hidden Beauty England, and then different chapters would be different cities. So it may be that some of the countries, because they're smaller, because they don't have as many places or, you know, cities or what you're looking for, might only have 3 chapters as opposed to 20.
Sure.
You know?
Okay.
But I mean, yeah, you know, it's kind of touch and go, because I think it would depend on where you were. Because if you did the country, then if you came over to America, there'd be so many major cities that are so very different because of how large our country is. You know, like we always have a hard time realizing that us traveling state to state is equivalent to some of you guys traveling country to country in terms of time. So it's an interesting thought. Like you would have like, you know, you'd have Poland, and then you'd have like England, and then you'd have like Germany, and then you'd have like the US, you know, and other countries that are super large like that too, especially if they have lots of major cities and cultural diversity. So I think it definitely warrants looking into and deciding which cities you're drawn to or which places within the country. But I think cities would probably be better. It also depends on how many images you can get. Like if you can take 1,500 pictures of just Berlin, I think that's enough to probably do a whole anthology.
Oh yeah, and I'm going back to Berlin in May actually for 2. I mean, I was only, to be honest, out of those 1,500 images, I mean, I would, you know, I do think I'll probably end up with a couple of hundred, maybe 100. But I was only there 7 days. You know, it's just, the place is amazing, and I'm going back for another 2 weeks. So I think, yeah, I would definitely have enough for Berlin. I'm still photographing in London. I will have enough for London. And then, you know, and then even maybe down the line, I mean, it's called Hidden Beauty. So it doesn't necessarily have to be architecture. It could be something else in another, you know, it could progress down the line into something else, or maybe not. I don't know. I haven't.
It's definitely open-ended enough to keep doing. Hidden Beauty would be a great brand to build off of. You know, because you could do Hidden Beauty in the architecture, and you could do Hidden Beauty in the people, and you could do Hidden Beauty in different cultures and customs and plant life, and you know, like there's all kinds of different ways that you could play with it and find different things. I would love to see Hidden Beauty macro work within the city. I think that would be really neat, like some stuff that like Bruce does. I would love to just send him with you for a week and see what he sees because of the way he looks at things and how minuscule he works.
Yeah, I think it seems to be that that has much more of a brand opportunity, I think.
Yeah.
More longevity.
But I think what I would look at doing, and I did this with my book too, everybody that gets a copy of my first book that buys the limited edition, the very last page of the book has the first page of the reliquarian in it. So it would be interesting for you to complete the book and have some of the images, and then just have at the end of the book, by the way, you know, these emotions or these pages are from my new series, Hidden Beauty, due out in 2017.
Yeah.
You know, and so it becomes a free marketing thing for you, where they're actually paying you to get interest. Because one of the biggest problems you hear about people that get their like 15 minutes of fame, part of the reason it's 15 minutes is because they get all this notoriety and attention paid to them for one thing that they've done, and they don't have the next thing yet. So
Yeah.
by the time they go, oh, my next book is out, people are already way over here reading this set, you know, or looking at this photographer, or watching this movie, or dealing with this musician stuff. Like, so that's what happens. So you should always have your mind on the next thing. So I actually think that it's very entrepreneurial and intelligent of you to actually have multiple projects going on. So that, you know, the first one is coming out first, but the second one's already in the process. So you can direct them right into that and go, by the way, if you like this, you're definitely going to like the Hidden Beauty series, which you can follow here, here, and here while it's being created, and tell me, where should I go next?
Yeah. And even like now, that's a great idea about having something on the, like as the last page. I was thinking, if I started with Hidden Beauty Berlin, I'd have like a photo of London on the last page saying, you know, next book or whatever, Hidden Beauty London. And
yes, I love it.
Yeah. Well, that was your yeah, I love that idea. Yeah, I think that's great. Oh, so amazing how things like so change, you know, when we chat. Like when I came to your sphere originally, I had no idea I was going to go that way. I wrote this cute little story that I love, kind of thing, and I didn't even think about that. And now this is going in a, you know, a slightly different direction, but better direction for me, I think.
Good. I know. I love it. I would like to see, in Sphere 3, I would love to see, I would love to see the first book finished. I would love to see the idea for the second one at least fleshed out entirely. And thinking about that in terms of a format that can be repeated but unique. So if it's going to be Hidden Beauty and we're going to build that as like the brand of the artistry and something that you're really, because I definitely see that in all of the images you brought through the first book. Like there definitely is that hidden beauty that I think is probably at the core of your message.
Okay.
And I think if you go back and look through the first book, like you'll see it too. Like I think that's probably who you are. That's probably what you have to say. So I would like to see it in the sense that every book could be a unique collection, but that they would still have continuity as a series where you would look and you'd be able to tell that it was another book in that series.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Perfect. Yeah.
So it's the same thing. It's like we're always talking about portfolios and having the unique artistic voice, and how I want to be able to put 10 of your images in with 100 other images and pick out which 10 are yours.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's the same thing, but now like with the continuity of the project, like if, you know, if Hidden Beauty is one project and the Infectus is another book, like with Hidden Beauty, I want to know that those books and those images and those page layouts are part of this series and fit together.
Okay.
So I think that would probably be the first part, is kind of fleshing out what Hidden Beauty is and how the individual books are going to look and how they're going to fit together as a series. I'm very interested about your bookbinding class and to hear how that goes as well.
Yeah.
And then I think the less fun part, and something that I would really like to see you start doing, is focusing a little more on your social media so we can get you the following, so that we're not worried about it. So that when you're like, oh, I don't know if people really buy off on this, I can go, well, 1% can buy, and that's 2,000 people, so it'll pay for itself. You know, because then it just becomes less intimidating when you realize that you really, it doesn't matter. Like it is just a numbers game, and then nobody gets upset.
Yeah, I mean, I do use social media. I post every day, and I share stuff from other people, and my blog gets posted once a week. But I just don't seem to get, you know, more people following me. So
I would imagine part of the way to do that is to engage and to remember that social media is about social ability. One thing people love to talk about is themselves. So You know, and it's because that's our frame of reference for everything. Like, it's not necessarily a narcissism thing as much as it is, we don't experience the world, we experience our perspective of the world, which is totally dependent on how we're raised and our culture and where we're at and our gender and our life experience and our own center of consciousness. That all affects it. So, you know, you have one person sitting in traffic slamming on his horn and beeping even though he knew there was going to be road work that day, and then you have the other guy who's sitting there with his cup of coffee and his book on tape and he's happy as a clam because he left 2 hours early and he knows he'll be there on time. You know, same exact situation, very different outcomes. So it's all based around the people. So if I wanted to draw people's attention for Hidden Beauty, one of the first things I would do would be to start a hashtag that people could tag you at, that you could follow their work, like Hidden Beauty, and then for them to hashtag the city or the place, the country. So it would be a hashtag Hidden Beauty at Sandra Jordan or whatever your name is on the social media. And then hashtag London, hashtag, you know, wherever. I'm thinking of doing the next one in Poland. Which cities in Poland have the most hidden beauty? And let people take iPhone photos of their buildings and, you know, come photograph my home, you know, like it's almost like Humans of New York. How he's going, you'd be like that, but for buildings. Yeah, I love that idea. You know, and people could tell you their stories and it becomes a thing. And then, you know, when you find one that you like and you go, oh my God, I love that building, even though I won't make it to Thailand for another 4 years, you know, here's something that, you know, Sarah shared with me about this beautiful building in Thailand where every Monday they give out, you know, this kind of stuff. And then they share your page and go, oh my gosh, I was featured on Sandra's blog. And it starts to compound. So if you give them a question rather than a statement, they feel implied and compelled to answer. Okay. So it's the same kind of thing. Like earlier we were talking and you were like, I don't know if it's interesting enough. Well, is it interesting enough? What would make it interesting? You know, if you say that, then people go, oh yeah, it is. You know, so you ask a question and it has to be one that they can't reply yes or no to. Oh, yes or no, yeah. You know, something that they have to, and the more personal it is, the more it touches into them. Like, what's the most romantic place you've ever been to? What is the ugliest building in your town? Yeah. You know, and, you know, like little things like that, people will be like, oh, let me take a picture and show you because this thing is hideous, you know, and it's plus and minus. Like, what's the one building that is, you know, if the town had a building as mayor, what building would it be? You know, like open-ended questions like that people like immediately, even if they don't answer, they start thinking about it. And it's in the, I bet you'd be the bell tower. No, I'd probably be that church. How about the old bank? You know, and they start having conversations and then they talk to somebody else about it. And they're like, I was following this girl online. She was asking about like, what building would be the mayor of the town? Isn't that a weird question? Oh, I know exactly what it would be. It would be like the old schoolhouse up on the hill, you know, that one. And like, you know, so it starts this conversation about it, even if it's offline, that generates people to come back and follow you. But that's really what you're looking to do, is just start a conversation. Yeah, definitely. And then it may be that maybe we don't look for a printer for the book. Maybe you do for Adfectus. Maybe what we do is we do it as a digital book that's interactive. And like an ebook that they can download. That way the cost is minimal. Yep. And which means we can price it a lot lower to get it into as many hands as possible. And you do the bookbinding course and maybe do 10 or 20 hand-bound copies by the author and artist that sell for a premium price. Yeah. And I think then the Kickstarter or the project would be, we could still do that. That way you get your feet wet in crowdsourcing and we see what the downplay is, but really it wouldn't have to be anything because you'd be able to publish it either way. So there's not that like fear of failure, which you're one of my braver ones. I don't have to worry about that as much with you. I won't have to nurse you as long. Jump right in. But I think, you know, if you hit it, awesome. If you don't, it's not like, it doesn't create necessarily an obstacle we can't surmount to getting it out there. But the idea wouldn't be then to fund Adfectus, it would be that Adfectus funds Hidden Beauty as the next project and puts some money in your back pocket, either for travel to go to these places and shoot them, or towards the printing process so that you can keep control over them.
Yeah.
Like it.
Sounds fab. Amazing.
Yay. I really, really like the idea for the next book.
Yeah, it definitely is. I'm much more passionate about that. I think, you know, I still do have passion for Adfectus, but I suppose this one sort of took over a little bit. So I was getting more excited about that, and I've left the other one on the back burner.
Oh, you're preaching to the choir, girlfriend. I do that at least 3 times a week.
But I will finish. I will finish Adfectus in Sphere 3, without a doubt.
Okay. I like the idea of having more images. I think that you have enough beautiful images that you could probably publish it. I really like the idea of you including at least 1 or 2. And it would be really interesting to introduce Hidden Beauty as a series by having Hidden Beauty rather than an emotion. So one of the images of Berlin and having Hidden Beauty, and a quote by you on like the last page that talks about what Hidden Beauty is and how, you know, this project has led you into the next one, and they can follow you by going to, you know, whatever.
Yeah. Just right.
I love it.
Last page. Perfect.
And then
on the Adfectus one though, if we do the digital book way, what do you think? Because I've got 25 images at the moment. Because that takes it away from not being overly worried about, although I know we're going to make some handbound copies, but I mean, what do we think in terms of how many images do you think I should have?
I'm a bookworm, so I'm always of the mindset that the bigger the book, the bigger the cup of tea, the better.
Okay.
But I think that depends on you. I think that the book is pretty, but I do think that it's very minimalist right now. It's minimalist in the layout. It's minimalist in, you know, the words and the layers, and that's not a bad thing. It's just, it's the style of it is very clean and minimal, which can help create impact because nothing's being diluted by having a lot of other things around it. But at the same time, I don't think it's quite done yet.
No, I need to change the whole layout because we spoke about that before. So I definitely need to, so it's not always, oh, look, there's another image on that page and there's the text. So I'm going to move things around. I'm going to change the size of the images. I'm going to change the layout. I have downloaded InDesign. So, you know, I will do that properly that way rather than, because now I know I'm not going to self-publish through the company that I thought I was. And I found a font that I really like as well.
Okay, good.
So, yeah, so I'm almost going to start the layout again.
Okay, I'm totally all for that. I think it's good right now. I think you could use, I'd say at least another 5 to 10 images before it's done. I don't know exactly what it's missing yet, and maybe some of what I'm feeling is lacking will dissipate for me once the layout's redone. Maybe
Sure.
That's part of it. But I definitely don't think that it hasn't quite reached its potential yet. I think you have more in you. And I'm a big believer, you know, one of the best pieces of advice I heard about book writing from the standpoint of the author is that the first draft is just you telling the story to yourself. So I think that's it. You're good at the first draft. Most of them have 3 or 4 drafts before they even go before an agent or a publisher. So I do believe that you'll know when it's done. You'll look at it and be like, now it's done.
Yeah.
So if you don't have that feeling, it's not there yet. And some of it's just tweaking and play for a while. But I do think that once you get it laid out again, and you feel pretty confident with it, or you feel really stuck, that maybe what we'll do is I'll have you Dropbox me the file, and then I'll go in and make another copy and just move and lay things out and switch them.
Okay.
And we'll do a hangout that way, just to talk about different design elements and visual appeal on the page as well. Because sometimes just having a fresh pair of eyes to go over,
yeah, perfect,
will be good. What are you thinking in terms of I think we built your Sphere 3 while we were talking. Critique levels. Critique's kind of like, it's kind of an open-ended word for me at this level. It's more about one-on-one time that benefits you. So what are you thinking for Sphere 3? I'm thinking we should hook up at least 2, but probably like maybe 3 times, like maybe every 3 levels, 3, 6, and 9.
Yeah, I think that would be great, because then that gives me the in-between levels to, go back and think about things and retweak and stuff like that. Yeah, definitely, that would be brilliant.
Okay, and I think at least one of them should be for Adfectus.
Yeah.
To finish that off and look into distribution options and printing in the sake of having the book, whether it's digital or paper format. One of them, I think, for a social media plan.
Yeah.
Because I want to start building your following so that more people see this beautiful work. And one of them probably for the first Hidden Beauty draft. I think that'll about cover it. And then, same thing, like you can always drop in, Sphere 3's a little different because you guys are, you're moving up to a higher level too. So I want you to be really bold about taking time if you need it. Like if you're feeling stuck or whatever, like just book a hangout with me, even though it's not like a critique level, just to be like, hey, I need to fix this. Page 4 is making me crazy, or I can't get myself through. Adfectus right now, all I want to do is work on my new project, because that's how I always am. I have to like hold it hostage and do my actual work first.
Yeah, I think as well, every time we end up having a hangout, I come out much more enthusiastic and come out with great ideas. So I do think I probably would benefit more from, even if they're like just a 20-minute hangout.
Okay.
Quick, in between those critique times, just to, keep firing. I think that would definitely work for me.
Okay, well, you are at 29 right now. I have Sphere 3 set up. I'm only inviting people right now that are in my actual Sphere 2 for the next couple of weeks while I wind down Sphere 1. Okay. So I think since you would be up there all by yourself, since everybody else is slacking and hopefully they're watching this and get their butts in gear, no, I think I'll just keep you in the Sphere 2 community for right now and just put up a new Sphere map. That way you can keep posting with your group and still have feedback rather than it just being you and me.
Yeah, that would be great, because it's good to get their feedback too.
Yeah, so I think we'll do that. And I think for right now, your first level is definitely going to be the answers to those questions for Adfectus. And then I'm gonna make the first level really, really ambitious for you. I would like the answers to those questions, and I would also like the new layout of the book. So maybe do the new layout, and we'll take a look, and then we'll see if we still feel like if it needs more images or if it's okay as is.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking in my head. So I love it that you always say what I'm thinking.
Good. That means we're in sync. That's good. We're on the same page. I also would not be upset about you printing out a copy of Adfectus once you have the layout, just to have a physical copy in your hands to see how it feels. Even if it's not your own book binding or something, just to get an idea for like the depth of the pages and the size to see if it fits right. Because if you're going to bookbind and put a gorgeous cover and everything on yourself, when is your bookbinding thing?
It starts on the 12th of April. So
okay, so it's coming up super soon.
Yeah.
Okay, so go to the bookbinding thing, see how you feel after you're done that, if that's something that you definitely want to do, and about the process. And then if you want to do that and you want to wait and attempt bookbinding, I think that'll be super fun. It'll be like craft time. And I can't wait to hear how frustrated you are when you don't get it right the first time, because you're just like me and you're like, what do you mean I'm not an expert in this right away?
I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's do the bookbinding course. We'll answer the questions, we'll relay out, and then we can look at different paper quality to get it printed on.
Okay.
Probably the thing that you would want to do is actually find a fine art printer if you're going to bind yourself, and get the right paper that you want it printed on, and have them print them double-sided. So probably a personal gallery somewhere around you that you can go in. Google search will bring up a whole bunch of options near you, but I would definitely pick a print house that you can walk into and go, look, this is what I'm doing and I'm binding it myself. So I just need the pages, because you'll need loose pages if you're doing that. You don't need a book printer, then you need an art printer.
And I can't print that myself, or I can? Or
You can. I don't know that you'll have the effect that you're looking for. I mean, I guess it depends on the quality of the printer that you have at home. Do you do all your own printing?
I've got an Epson R2880, so you know it does do good prints.
Okay.
I mean, I just sent some stuff up to a camera house and they were like, oh my God, these prints are amazing.
Can you print dual-sided on it?
I don't know.
Okay, so test that today. That'd be a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of it might actually have to do with the quality of the paper. I don't know if rolling it through again would, I mean, it can't, because but I don't know with yours if it would damage it or not. But
well, I didn't think about that. Yeah, I think it will.
You could also do a like a heavy paper, and you could actually mat the prints onto it flat, so it would take on a more of an album quality. That's not practical at all for mass distribution, but if you're only doing 10 copies, you could totally look into that, into like having it be more of like a matted print kind of thing.
And I am going, like I said to you, my boss is printing the book herself. I mean, she's done like a couple already. So I am going to their publisher and their printer, not publisher, I'm going to see a printer in a couple of weeks as well. So I'll have a sneaky look at all their papers for my own benefit too.
Yeah, the paper quality is going to make a big difference. The printer having the ability to print on both sides without damaging the print on the opposite side will be a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, because even if it's a print on this side and the next side has just the text, like I just don't want that
it's still
damaging or bleeding through.
It will. Yeah, I didn't think about that properly. It will definitely. I think it will damage it. So yeah, it needs to go to a proper printer.
I would still test it. I would do like a little 5x7 or something and just test it and see.
Well, I probably will because I want to go to the first bookbinding class with a little mock-up saying this is what I want to bind.
Yeah.
So, and, you know, because then we'll pick papers and stuff based on those photos and that text kind of thing. So
I'm super excited about that. I can't wait to hear about the bookbinding class. I'm a little jealous. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm looking forward to it. But if I can't do it, like if I'm going to be rubbish at it, I'll be really frustrated.
Everybody's rubbish at it when they first start. Yeah. Everybody.
Yeah. That's true.
So it'll just depend. If you love the process and you're like, ooh, then you don't care that you're rubbish and you practice at it till you get good. If it's too labor intensive and you're like, this was the worst use of my time and money ever, then we'll look at somebody else.
Okay, cool.
So, all right. Was there anything else specifically that you wanted to touch on, or anything that I didn't hit on for you yet?
I think we're good. No, I think there's loads to work on there.
I'm super excited. Yours is one of my favorite spheres. I get excited every time we talk about it.
Yeah, fabulous. No, I'm loving it.
Good. Okay. So yeah, as soon as you're ready, just hit the level up and I'll move you up to sphere 3 in the Arcanum database, but we'll keep you in there and you have your first 2 levels and I will put the rest of the sphere map together. I want to do some research, get you in touch with some printers. I'm going to wait a week or 2 until after the 12th because I want to hear how you feel about the book binding.
Yeah, great.
And how you feel about the process and the printing and everything else. Once you have a better feel of where you want to go with that, I think that'll really shift how we're going to go about the actual book printing and stuff. So
that makes sense.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks very much. Brilliant. Thank you.